Hello and welcome, everyone. Good morning. I'm the Reverend William Levwood, the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. My pronouns are he or him. As we begin our service, I invite you to silence your phone if you're in the sanctuary or close your other windows on your computer if you're at home. Take a deep breath and center yourself for worship. We open and welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together shall one day know full justice. We have a special service today hosted by our pagan group, Sacred Wheel. It's a multi-generational service, and in that way it's very similar to our other multi-generational services, but in other ways it's unique and different. We're lucky to have Sacred Wheel to host 2 services each year, including today's Yule service. So you'll learn a lot about Yule and its connections to how we celebrate Christmas as well, and a little bit as well about Hanukkah.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. My name is Sheila Doles. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm your worship associate, narrator, and kind of jack of all trades today. And yes, I really am wearing a tree skirt. I hope you got a name tag or put your name on your Zoom name tag. If you need help with that, let us know in the chat. Our greeters, our minister, or anybody with a cross-stitched name tag, kind of like this, would be happy to talk to you about Accotink with you after the service today. We're so delighted that you decided to join us today. The winter solstice has had profound significance for humans all over the world, probably ever since our ancestors first left Africa and ventured away from the equator. As they saw the days shorten and the sun weaken, we can imagine that they began to fear the cold and darkness. What if the sun never returned? It would mean the end of existence. And so humans began to mark the solstice, the final day of the sun's retreat. For example, in what is now Peru, the Incas oriented their Coricancha, or sun temple, toward the winter solstice sunrise. Similarly, in ancient Ireland, Newgrange Barrow was constructed so that at dawn on the winter solstice, the sun would shine directly into its heart. And for centuries, the Japanese have enticed the sun goddess Amaterasu to emerge at the winter solstice from the cave in which she's hidden. They used dancing and music. So you can imagine the relief that people felt when they knew the sun's return was at hand. And now, in the 21st century, even though we have electric lights and indoor heating to keep the cold outside, and TVs and computers to distract us from the darkness, we are still deeply aware of the season. We still respond to that ancient need to celebrate the return of the light. Our modern American Christmas customs have roots from all over pagan Europe. The word Yule comes from the Old Norse Yule, or Yolnir, another name for Odin. So Odin's name gives us Yule, the pagan winter feast lasting 12 days, which was the length of time it took for a Yule log to burn. Meanwhile, in ancient Rome, the Romans celebrated their raucous solstice feast of Saturnalia from December 17th to the 23rd, and the birth of their sun god Mithras was celebrated on December 25th. The Christian Church's placement of Christ's birth on December 25th was probably an attempt to preempt Saturnalia. Northern European pagans decorated their homes with boughs of evergreen as a sign of life in the depths of winter. And by the 16th century or so, Germanic peoples had invented the Christmas tree. And then there's the mistletoe, symbol of love and peace, sacred to the Druids, and more about that to come. So join me now as we cast our circle and invite the elements to create sacred space. Heart to hand, I cast the circle.
Heart to hand, I cast the circle.
So, we shall now call the quarters. For those who haven't seen this before, enjoy. Where do we have east? Please come up. All the quarters, please come up. Here we go.
Spirits of the, there we go. Spirits of the east, of air, of cold winds that blow the smoke from chimneys, air that gives us breath for singing, we ask you to join our circle as we greet the solstice sun.
Hail and welcome.
Hail and welcome.
Spirits of the south.
Spirits of the south, of fire, of Yule logs burning, of Hanukkah and Kwanzaa candles and glittering Christmas tree lights, we ask you to join our circle as we greet the solstice sun. Hail and welcome.
Spirits of the west, of water, of glittering frost on our windows and muffling blankets of snow, we ask you to join our circle as we greet the solstice sun. Hail and well met.
Spirits of the north, of earth, of the burrows that embrace hibernating animals and hide secret seeds awaiting spring, we ask you to join our circle as we greet the solstice sun. Hail and welcome.
And as we light our final quarter candle, we also light our UU chalice. Spirit of life that makes all life one, we ask you to open our hearts to each other and to all the life around us at this, the winter solstice. Good Yule!
Good Yule. I love it.
Our ancestors watched our star crest the horizon on the shortest day, cheering on the light and warmth that meant life would continue. So we too cheer on Sol Invicta, the unconquered sun, without whom no plants grow and there is no food to eat. As we gather to celebrate the rebirth of the sun, we once again honor you as our source of warmth and existence. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Earth and moon are female energies. Our silvery shining moon, we humans have always imbued you with magic and wonder. You give us light in the darkest night and watch over those deeds too fragile to withstand the day. Ruler of the tides and of our bodies, lend us some of that magic and wonder as we gather to celebrate Yule today. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Mother Earth, giver of life here on this planet. Our fragile existence depends on you and the sun acting together, giving us good soil in which to grow our food and waterways to nourish all life. As we gather today to celebrate the rebirth of the sun, we also honor you as the greening counterpoint to the warmth of the golden sun. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
And now, typically in our service, we have a time for all ages, which is, as it sounds like, a time for children, but really for everyone. And today we have a special treat. We've got the story of the mistletoe. In the North countries, the winter solstice is even more important than it is here. In a place where the sun disappears for days, the assurance that it will return is a must. So now we introduce the Norse gods. First, we have Freya, goddess of love and beauty. She wears the necklace Brisingamen, and her two cats bee gold and tree gold pull her chariot. But in some places, Freya's chariot is pulled by stags. What does that make you think of? As she goes on her nighttime winter solstice flights, invisible but bringing gifts to all good mortals. Her son, Balder, son of Odin, best loved of all the gods, is so beautiful and wise that he actually gives off light. Look at that. He settles disputes for gods and mortals, and no one questions his decisions. Odin, All-Father, who sees and knows all, master of all magic, his two ravens, Thought and Memory, bring him news from the world. With only one eye, he sees everyone and knows all that happens, so be good. He rides his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir, who can travel over water and through air. Thor, god of thunder and lightning, a burly man with red hair and a long beard, god of thunder and lightning, and also that of farming. Thor is a friend to everyone, and his hammer, Mjolnir, helps him fight against trolls and frost giants. His chariot is pulled through the sky by goats. And, of course, Loki, who Nancy mentioned earlier, his name also means luck. He is eternally looking for mischief to make. A shapeshifter, Loki both causes trouble and winds up in trouble himself. Even so, his cleverness can be very useful. Now, a long time ago in the Norselands, Balder began having troubling dreams about death. His mother, Freya, understandably upset at her son's bad dreams, went to every plant and animal and even nettle in the whole world and got their promise not to harm her son. The only thing Freya overlooked was the innocent mistletoe. Sitting way high up in the apple and oak trees, she thought surely it could never hurt anyone. Satisfied that her son was now safe, Freya relaxed again, and Balder's mind was put at ease. But Loki, hearing of this, saw a way to make trouble. He went to Freya disguised as an old woman and asked the goddess if she had truly gotten all the world's promise not to hurt the god of light. Freya told him that yes, she had. "Are you sure?" said Loki in disguise. "Every animal? Every weapon? Every plant?" "Yes, yes," said Freya. "All but the mistletoe. It's harmless." At that, Loki saw his chance. He made an arrow of mistletoe and went to where the gods were playing. They were throwing things at Balder, and everyone was laughing as they all bounced back off the god of light. Everyone tried, even Thor with his hammer, the great Mjolnir, but nothing would harm the much-loved Balder. "Let me try," said Hoder, the blind god, and stepped forward. But Hoder was really Loki in disguise. So Loki raised his arrow of mistletoe and, pretending to be Hoder, shot Balder. The arrow pierced Balder's chest and he fell down dead. Freya ran to her son's side. All the other gods stood frozen, not believing what was before their eyes. Balder lay still, unmoving. All the gods tried to bring Balder back from the dead. They used all their magic, but nothing worked. For 3 days and 3 nights, Freya wept for her son. And so the shortest day came and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling through all the frosty ages. You can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight this shortest day. As the promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends and hope for peace. So do we here now, this year and every year. Welcome, Yule. Welcome, Yule. And so it was that his mother's love brought the sun god back to life. In her happiness, Freya declared that from now on, the mistletoe would never harm anyone, and that those who meet under its branches must exchange a token of love and friendship. And so it is that we kiss under the mistletoe at Yuletide.
Now, unfortunately, I have to get to say birthdays because we are going to call Bruce Griffin. Come on out as our official Finnish representative. We need you to tell us, where does Santa really live? How many people think it's the North Pole? Raise your hand. But maybe not really. Maybe that's just Santa's cover story, and not too many people go looking for it.
This tote bag is from the Embassy of Finland.
Louder.
Clearly, it's true.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's working. It's working.
Oh, I can yell. You hear me?
Cody might be better, if you don't mind. Even better.
Just speak here. You hear me? I bring the tote bag from the Embassy of Finland. Clearly, it's... I never make stories, ever. Where does Santa live? He lives in a place called Korvatunturi in Finland. Korva means ear, and Tunturi is a mountain. There are 2 ears on the mountain, and they rotate. And who rotates them? The elves. The elves listen all the time and hear everything. That's true. You can go to Korvatunturi, but you won't see the elves. They're invisible. After they do their work, they go to Rovaniemi, which is one of the towns just above the Arctic Circle. Rovaniemi. And it says that it is the official hometown of Santa Claus. Has to be true. If it's written, it's true. Have more proof. T-shirt. Rovaniemi, the official hometown of Santa Claus. Been there, done there, and got the T-shirt. Now I have more information about Santa Claus, Finland and Christmas, Rovaniemi, and a map. I'll have it out here, and you can see how far north it is. It's north of the pole. Rovaniemi is, I think, the northernmost airport. And one more thing, after all the stuff comes out of the workshops in the north to Rovaniemi, what happens to them? They're taken to the airport of Rovaniemi, and Finnair brings them worldwide. All true. Oh, and I forgot one thing. Oops, real quick. The name of Santa Claus, the real name, is Yule. Yule is Yule, Yuletide. Pookie is goat, the Christmas goat. And why the Christmas goat, or the Yule goat? The goat is a symbol of giving, pure giving. There's another goat who is not quite as nice a goat. And he goes around asking for food. So the Finland is, but Yule Pookie. And so the
Okay, so we have now heard where Santa really lives, and that Finn Air is complicit in delivering all those goodies and all those gifts throughout the world on Christmas Eve. But today, we'll find out more about the world's jolliest old elf. How did Santa Claus come to be? Santa likely has roots in stories of the 4th century Greek bishop, Saint Nicholas. Not that much is really known about Saint Nicholas. Legend has it, he secretly provided dowries, that's money, for a poor man's daughters so that they could get married. It was kind of a strange time. Couldn't get married unless you had money. Very odd. However, he did it by leaving gold coins in stockings that the daughters had left by the fire to dry. In the Netherlands and Belgium, St. Nicholas is known as Sinterklaas. Sinterklaas rides his white-gray horse over the rooftops at night, delivering gifts through the chimney to well-behaved children. This likely owes a lot to stories of the All-Father, Odin, who rode through the air on his 8-legged horse Sleipnir during Yule and left bread for the poor or treats for the children, and possibly coal in your stocking if you didn't behave. Perhaps our modern 8 reindeer have to do with Sleipnir's legs. But, and this is how we have Santa Claus as a uniquely American god. Yes, thank you, I said that word. In 1823, a minister named Clement Clark Moore published a poem, and he titled it A Visit from St. Nicholas, which we more commonly known as, anybody help me out here? Exactly, we all know that. This poem seems to have made canon, which is accepted fact, out of a lot of what we know about Santa today, such as him being chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, with a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. So, now, everybody has a Jingle Bell necklace? Okay, jingle your necklaces because we're going to call Santa in to come and talk to us. Santa Claus, come on in! Santa! Yay! Santa's here! Welcome! Welcome, welcome! Now, let's listen to Santa tell his own story. We're all stressed at this time of the holidays. There's all so much to do. Take this time out of time to hear the tale. And perhaps you may want to let your eyes close a little bit, the better to hear Santa speak.
Welcome, everybody, boys and girls. Have you all been good, little boys and girls? Yeah. I'm so glad I could get my reindeers to bring me here tonight. I've been asked to read the story, The Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below. When what to my wandering eye should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick. I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled. His dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. Sorry, too many papers for Santa too. Gloves, you know these are. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke had encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf. And I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas, and to all a good night.
Thank you, Santa.
It's pretty miraculous how Santa travels on one night and delivers all those gifts. And there's another holiday that happens this time of year, which is the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, which starts tonight. And it celebrates 2 miracles. The first is the fact that a small band of fighters led by Judah Maccabee were able to drive the Syrian Greek army out of Jerusalem. But Hanukkah doesn't become a holiday at that time. The holiday of Hanukkah itself is a later invention of the rabbinic sages who compiled the Talmud after the destruction of the Second Temple, after the dispersal of the Jewish people from Jerusalem and the land of Israel. The rabbinic sages of the Talmud tell of another miracle. This is the story of the rededication of the temple. The word Hanukkah itself means dedication. So in the temple, there was a light that was meant to burn at all times, symbolizing the eternal nature of God and God's love. The oil was consecrated was dedicated in a special way that took 8 days to prepare. However, when the temple was recaptured by the Maccabees, as the story goes, they were only able to find a small cruse of consecrated oil, with not even enough oil to burn for 1 day. And yet, miraculously, it burned for 8 days until the newly consecrated oil could be used. It's important that the rabbinic sages didn't emphasize the story of the Maccabean victory. It turns out that that victory led to a dynasty, the Hasmonean dynasty, whose rule of Israel was every bit as tyrannical as that of the Syrian Greeks they overthrew. And by the time of the writing down of the Talmud, it was clear that it had been a temporary victory. The temple had been destroyed and the Jewish people scattered to the winds, forced to wander in the deep darkness of night. The Jewish people needed a story that assured them that even though it seemed like the light would go out, that the last small cruse of oil didn't even hold enough to burn for 1 day, that the people would survive. Rachel Naomi Remen tells a story of her grandfather teaching her about the lighting of the Hanukkah candles. Each night, before lighting the candles, they would turn out the lights. And as a child, in that minute of deep darkness, Rachel is quite scared. But then, using the shamas, the helper candle, she would light the Hanukkah candles. The first night, it was just a small light, barely enough to see the Hanukkah candelabra by. But each night, another candle is added, until by the 8th night, the light burns brightly throughout the room. On that night, she says to her grandfather, "It's beautiful." "Ah, yes," he responds, "but God's menorah is even more beautiful because it is made of people, not candles." Rachel is confused, so her grandfather explains that the story of Hanukkah says that God's light burns in the darkness even without oil, and that there is a place in everyone that can carry the light. But just as on that first night, where the light was barely enough to see the menorah by, her grandfather tells her that 1 candle does not do much in the darkness. But we're not only able to carry the candle, but like the shamas, like the helper candle, we can kindle and strengthen the light within one another. We can pass the light along. And in this way, we bring light back even in the darkest night. I say, may it be so, and may we be among those who make it so. We are lights. Amen, 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 and let us all say, blessed be.
Our sacred time together is coming to a close. Let us thank the gods and the quarters for their presence and blessings, and open our sacred space to reconnect with the outside world. And the next time someone talks about Santa Claus, remember the old gods and how they have played a part in Santa's creation. If we can please have the people who invited the gods in the quarters come up.
First, fire. Solstice sun, Sol Invicta. You have triumphed over the dark and blessed us with your presence. We thank you for your growing light and your promise of warmth and spring to come. Blessed be. Blessed be.
Shining sister moon, light on snow, you have lent us your silvery magic and blessed us with your presence. We thank you for your light in the depth of the winter nights. Blessed be. Blessed be. Our Mother Earth, from whom all life emerges and to whom all life returns, you have blessed us with your presence, sleeping but not dead. Rest well, to burst again with life in the spring. Blessed be. Spirits of earth, we thank you for your presence. Dream deep dreams in the winter darkness, and far off spring to come. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Hail and farewell.
West, spirits of water, we thank you for your presence. Lacy snowflakes, crystals of ice, you melt to nourish the earth, the spring to come. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Hail and farewell. Spirits of earth, we thank you for your presence. Dream deep dreams in the winter darkness, a far-off spring to come. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Hail and farewell.
Spirits of fire and the south, we thank you for your presence. Candle flame and glittering lights remind us that the faraway sun is returning. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell.
Hail and farewell. Spirits of air, we thank you for your presence. Winter gales shall give way to spring breezes as the sun returns. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Hail and farewell.
Spirit of life, in the deepest dark, we see the lights of the winter solstice, the light of love and caring for each other and the earth. Though we extinguish our chalice, we go out to enjoy our modern Yule, much as our ancestors enjoyed theirs. And when you see the lights on people's houses, the lights out in the street, no matter how cynical you are, you have to admit you enjoy them. Feel free to enjoy them. This is the time of light in the deepest dark, and it is wonderful to celebrate Yule with everyone. Welcome, Yule!
Welcome, Yule!
And now, Ari is going to lead us in our community blessing.
I invite you now to join me in our community blessing with the words of David Bumbow. Did I say that correctly? Yes, you did.
This church is dedicated
To the Protestant behind all our differences and beneath all of our diversity. There is unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We now in silent witness to that unity.